Okay. No, presenter, you want PPT. Why are you not doing that? Why don't you try PPT?
Hare Krishna. So this week's class is about answers by citing the Lord's version. Last time Brahma started asking all the questions. Now this is the first time Krishna, the Vishnu, is going to talk about and answering each of his questions. Oh.
Can you send PPT to all?
Answers by citing the Lord's version. Last time Brahma started asking all the questions. Now this is the first time. So we have 3 verses to go through, but each of them is long purports and powerful ones. So I'll try to do justice in the short time we have now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Let's do it together. Narayanam Namaskritya Nararam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayaviraye Shunatam Sakala Krishna Punyasravana Kirtana Hridyantastoya Bhadrani Vinoti Sratisatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Dhanadinasaraya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Mangalam Naprayate Yatrupadam Aham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshakarine. The first verse, now the Bhagavan actually started speaking. Jnanam paramaguhyam me
Jnanam paramaguhyam me
yadvijnana samanvitam
yadvijnana samanvitam
sarhasyam tadangam cha
sarhasyam tadangam cha
grahana gaditam maya.
grahanagaditam maya.
The personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. So here now the very first question, to understand the Lord is saying, first of all, it's very confidential, and there is a process to understand that knowledge. And then he's going to tell all the things that need to be done to the Lord Brahma, and he's also asking Lord Brahma to take it very carefully. Means there should not be any lenience on part of practitioner. So what are the Brahma's questions actually? Just to give a recap, these are the questions he actually asked. What are the forms of the Lord, both in matter and in transcendence? That's what Brahma wanted to know. And how are the different energies of the Lord working? How does the Lord play with his different energies? How may Brahma be instructed to discharge the duty entrusted to him? So he's asking all this knowledge not just for the sake of it, he just wanted to use that, and how he has to use this as part of his creation process, so that he is not entangled by the material energy influence. So here the key points are, as we talk about, knowledge of him, Krishna, the supreme absolute truth, is actually very subtle and cannot be understood unless one is self-realized by the grace of the Lord. The same point will be repeated in the second verse also, the grace of the Lord. So unless you have that, that's the first step. Whereas the mental speculator, Prabhupada uses this actually these 3 verses to talk about impersonalism as well, and refute their claims of oneness or Brahman only is the ultimate truth. So Prabhupada actually talks about, because Krishna, the Lord is himself saying I, aham in many places here. So he's saying that is actually the personality of Godhead, and how the impersonalism doesn't stand what the verse is actually trying to say, and how the impersonalists twist the meaning of this to suit their purposes. So he says the mental speculators as we know, can reach up to the standard of impersonal Brahman realizations. But the complete knowledge, transcendental knowledge, is actually beyond that Brahman. And that is actually called the supreme confidential wisdom. And this is the same thing Krishna actually instructs in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, because Arjuna is a devotee and a friend. And that's the first qualification. That means you are surrendered, you are a devotee, and you are a friend of Lord. And that's the first qualification with which you can actually enter into the mystery of Bhagavad Gita, or the kingdom of God. Here basically the mystery means, and Prabhupada actually talks about the mystery is nothing but love of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the mystery. And that cannot be revealed to anybody. And impersonalists have no concept of the personality of Godhead. So for them, it's very impossible to go to that level. They don't have the understanding of what this love of Godhead means. So that's what we just talked. And what are the devotional service? The other aspect which we talk, Lord mentions here is devotional service, the process of knowing that supreme confidential knowledge. So what are our things which Acharyas listed for us is one of the Vidhi Bhakti. That is a regulative principles. It can be practiced by anyone, because we are all practitioners. So there are these regulative principles we need to follow, which can be done with present senses. That's what Prabhupada writes. I mean, you don't need to be like attain some stage after which you can actually practice. This is right now. With all our imperfect senses, whatever we are, we can start practicing the senses. Now with the senses, we can practice this Vidhi Bhakti. I just go there. And devotional service is actually main classified as like a hearing and chanting of the Lord, Lord's glories. And these are the most important aspect of devotional service. And this is what we constantly hear from purports and various acharyas descriptions about this devotional service is hearing and chanting. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's the five main principles of attaining perfection in devotional service. Number one is association with devotees. In the association, we actually, idea is to hear about glories of the Lord. And we also chant the glories of the Lord. That's the second principle. And the third one is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the pure devotee, because they understand the purports as Krishna wanted to understand the pure devotee, and they can reveal it to us. We may not understand something, we may not be very clear to us, but a pure devotee can clarify the questions which we have and set us in the right direction. And so the hearing process is very important. How we hear, where we hear is also very important, and what we hear is obviously important. So, and fourth one is residing in a holy place connected with the Lord. That means holy place doesn't actually says Mathura, Vrindavan, but here, even in the Samamish or Vedic Culture Center here, the Radhanilmana temple, where we have association of the devotees, where the Lord is present, this is also a holy place. So, residing in a holy place, near a holy place, coming together and listening from the pure devotee, all these are very important aspects of the devotional service. And we have a deity as well, worshipping the deity of Lord with devotion. So devotion means, what is the devotion? Means we all do service, but we have no other motive other than to please the Lord. So we have to come to that stage, and that if that becomes voluntary, spontaneous, then we are actually making progress in that direction. If you're doing it as a matter of duty, in the beginning we do it as a matter of duty, but the principle behind that is we have to attain that love of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why we are doing all these things. Once that factor actually sets in our mind, every other thing, every other activity, whatever we do, actually comes in line with the main principle. So this is actually, when I was reading this purport, it struck me like, yeah, we do so many things, but here there are 5 main things. Very simple, and again, it's like a recap for us. Maybe we should do every day. We should remember these and see how many of these things we're actually following in our daily life. So, love of God, Supreme Personality of Godhead is the confidential part of the knowledge. Only devotees can understand. And there are Vidhi Bhakti, which we need to follow, even with our present conditions. And that will lead us to at least it sets on the path. And of course, That means one part of the equation. What is the other part of the equation? Naturally, when we started walking in towards the Lord, but then Lord also has to reciprocate. So we'll see that in the next verse. Yavan aham yatha bhavo
यावनहं यथा भावो
yadrupa guna karmakaha
यद्रूपगुणकर्मकः
tathaiva tattva vijnanam
तथैव तद्विज्ञानम्
astu te mad anugrahat.
अस्तु ते मदनुग्रहात्
All of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy. So here, the key word is anugrahat, my causeless mercy. And the rest is he's explaining he is a person and he has various forms and colors, qualities, activities he does, which is the past tense. That means again, Prabhupada comes heavy sometime on impersonalist, saying that how can you interpret this verse any other way? And the Lord himself says, they have forms which have all these variations, right? Variegatedness. And the key point of which I understand from one of the sections here is, to the faithful, the Lord reveals himself in his form, quality, and pastimes. Prabhupada, this section concludes that way. So that means you have to have the faith. Again, going back to our previous verse, you're a friend and you're a devotee. So, but you only do that because you have faith in the Lord. So here, the first point of this verse is causeless mercy of the Lord. Because anugraha, unless the Lord also is giving you that mercy, that okay, you cannot actually understand anything on your own. Means you can go up to a certain limit, but beyond that, the Lord has to reveal himself. It's like an example is a father disclosing any confidential information to one of his pet son, the closest son, because the reason he discloses to that particular son, maybe this knowledge is useful to him, or he will properly utilize it and is qualified to receive it. He may not reveal it to everybody, right? And the second part is, as we talked about, the process, the devotion service, one's advancement in transcendental loving service, which is I will call as endeavor of the Lord, can make one eligible to know the Lord. That means there is another part of this is your own effort, your own endeavor to move in that direction and Lord's mercy. So you are actually moving towards each other there. And the third most important is having unflinching faith in the spiritual master and the Lord. So if without that, it looks like a pure mechanical process. Somebody told, my father following it, my friends follow it, my other Prabhus follow it, so I'm following it. Yeah, initial thing that's required, but as you have to have the faith in the Lord and the person who is guiding you, the spiritual master. So if all these three come together, then the Lord actually reveals himself, all the form, qualities, and pastimes. That is when you actually enjoy whatever is like. You will enjoy the Srimad Bhagavatam's pastimes. You will, as a devotee, since you have the faith, you will not question whether something is possible or not possible, whether the Lord can do it or cannot do it. If we have that kind of doubt, it's something we need to correct ourselves where we are lacking. As a devotee, we should have faith in Bhagavatams, the pastimes of the Lord, I think. So that will differentiate us from the people who do not have that faith. So here, the two pictures which essentially talk about, because he's a form, Krishna as a form, and the Govinda. And that's how Brahma actually describes him. And he has his own pastimes in Vrindavan, which are eternal, so continuously going on. And people may question Govardhan Leela, how can a little boy can lift such a big mountain? Is it possible it's all something myth or some kind of story? So, but that is not for the devotees. Devotees have no such idea that, oh, Krishna cannot do it, Krishna will do it. Krishna can do it if he wants to do anything which he wants. So that's the faith we need to have, the firm faith. And since our Brahma Samhita says, Govinda is a person. He's actually tending the cows and the senses and he's doing his pastimes in Vrindavana. So the Lord is actually not formless as the impersonalists claim. The only thing is they don't understand this form. His form is not like what we normally see, the material form. The Lord's form is spiritual form. Saying this, the spiritual form, the concept is not understood by the impersonalists. That's why they say they come using their material senses. They say a Lord is not doesn't have a form, and they cannot distinguish this the mundane form which we have and the spiritual form. As Brahma Samhita says, the Lord has a spiritual form and he can utilize any one of his senses for any purpose. And this concept is very difficult for others to understand, but as per the sampradaya where we come from, Brahma says that. So, and having a Lord is limitless and his energies are limitless and he can do anything using those energies. We should have faith that we should understand that Lord can utilize any one of his senses for any purpose. And a spiritual body is actually not a formless, it's just a different type of body, which we cannot conceive with our present mundane senses. And this is exactly the reason Krishna actually gives the eyes, the Divya Chakshu, to Arjuna during the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield, so that he can see Lord's form. Formless therefore means devoid of mundane form. That's how we should understand. When say formless means it's not the Lord's form is not mundane. That's how we should understand. And possessing a spiritual body of which the non-devotee can have no conception by the speculative method. So speculation can only take you up to some extent. As Prabhupada said in the first verse, all the impersonalists can go up to the Brahman realization. The Bhagavan realization is something which they have no idea. So a couple of things, Lord and devotees, his pastimes and the activities, his qualities which are mentioned in this verse, all those things, as it says, Lord discloses to the devotee his unlimited varieties of transcendental bodies. This is exactly the punch point of the first verse where it says, to the faithful, Lord reveals all his form, activities, pastimes. So false arguments claiming the formlessness of the supreme truth do not appeal to a devotee, because he says, Prabhupada actually says it will not appeal to a devotee even if he is not very advanced in devotion service. Again, he's not talking about advanced devotee. The concept of formlessness, even if I be starting this process, this devotion service, even I should not have any kind of taste. We cannot even understand this concept. We should not even be bothered about it, this argument. We may need to know these arguments when somebody puts forward God is formless to tell them, but as a person, practitioner of this devotion service, we should not have any doubt about it. So that's all false argument. So Lord has unlimited transcendental qualities, and one of that is his affection for the devotee. So he clearly says in Bhagavad Gita, he comes for the protection of the devotees and annihilation of the miscreants. So protection, and because he has that love, he keeps coming for us. And Srimad Bhagavatam is full of such activities, means the pastimes. Here, activities of pastimes. The pastimes are mentioned so many times, so many incidents with his devotees, which all inspire us, saying that how Lord, and also to tell us how merciful Lord is and how willing Lord comes to the rescue of his devotees in various times. And we talked about this Govardhan Lila pastime, right? For faithless is unbelievable, but if you have faith, it's believable. And devotees have to have that faith. So one thing which struck me one of the lines which struck me very clear here is that the Lord is the Lord eternally. That's what Prabhupada says. And that one cannot become the Lord by meditation or for millions of years, or by mental speculation for billions of years. Right? You can do as long as you want meditation, or you can speculate how many lives you may have, or stay in this life billions of years. You cannot become the Lord. Lord is Lord eternally. That's what it is. So this is what Vedas say, and our basis is Acharyas, Vedas, and the parampara through which we receive this knowledge. So even if you don't understand currently, it doesn't mean that is false. You have to take it. One day it will be revealed to you. You don't understand it today. And you make your endeavor, and Lord's mercy, coming together, your faith will guarantee that you will actually understand that, enter into that pastime of the Lord, that mood, enter into that mood. So all these descriptions of the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead are factual realizations by the devotee of the Lord. He says that means if you have all these three factors, your own endeavor, Lord's mercy, and you have faith, your realization is actually factual. It's not again something, okay, now I have all this thing, I should trust him. It's not blind thing. It's factual means you are, the Acharya is saying here, you will actually realize it. And Krishna also says the same thing in the verse. You'll actually realize about what all these things are about. And by the causeless mercy of the Lord, they are revealed to his pure devotee and to no one else. So he can hide himself from, he can be present here, and for a pure devotee, he may be seeing the Lord, but we may not be able to see, because he can do that. He has this Yogamaya potency. With that, he can cover himself from others. At the same time, make available for his pure devotees. So, and that's what we need to understand. So, going to the next verse. Ahamevasam
Ahamaivasamaivagre
Nanyat yasat asatparam
Nanyat yatsasatasaram
Paschadaham yad etasya
Paschadaham yadetasya
Yoga sishyeta sosmiham.
Yogashisheta sosmiham.
So now he's talking about himself clearly. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself. Nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. So, what do you understand from this particular verse? He's actually saying he is the cause of all causes. He exists before everybody existed. He will exist even after. That means he's clearly differentiating himself from Brahma. Because people sometimes associate Brahma is the creator. Brahma has the same call. Brahma is essentially, they talk about the same transcendental nature and absolute truth. So Brahma and the God are same. So you may get into that kind of argument. And also, we may say, as impersonalist says, Prabhupada writes here, the oneness concept, right? They wrongly conclude that Brahma is identical with the Lord, first of all, and based on the oneness principle. Brahma is the emanation of I, the absolute truth, hence they both are same. He says it's coming from the same I which mentioned here, and that I is this absolute truth is always there, and Brahma is also actually doing this, and so Brahma is actually part of that. So it's all one. There's no personality here involved. So you're trying to become, you can also become Brahma and get to that oneness kind of thing. So this is again twisted the meaning of Vedas, what Vedas said. Vedas talk about that, but the way Vedas talk about it, the way impersonalists use it for their purpose is totally different. So he said, even by using the same argument, what impersonalist is saying, since Brahma emanated from that principle, transcendental knowledge, by that definition, Brahma is the created and the Lord is the creator, because he is the predominated and somebody else predominated, because he has come from something. So that something where he came from is the predominator, and something which came from that is predominated. So even by that concept, there are two I's here. Not just, it's not one I, Brahma, everything same. So these two I's are also accepted in the Vedic literature, but in the sense of quality. This is the major difference, the quality part of it. We can, in the quality, we can be one, but by the amount, the quantity part, when it comes, that's when we are all minute particles or parts of parts, whatever we call. So to claim to be one with the cosmic consciousness of the Lord is the last trap set by the illusory energy or Devi mind. So we may fall into that, right? Because in the path to the Bhagavan realization, Brahman realization may come, and then if we enjoy that and we don't make further inquiries, further process, and say, oh, I reached that ultimate thing, that's again also is a illusory, it's an entrapment by the illusory energy, Devi Maya, Krishna's. So we should be always careful, even that means forever you have to be awake in the process of devotion service. You cannot, if you are lenient one way or other way, you'll fall. You will get entrapped into that, and then you'll go into a different direction. So no one can deny the personalities of both the Lord and Brahma. That's the first thing. Both are personalities. Lord is a personality. Brahma is also a personality. And it may be convenient to assume oneself to the same principle as the absolute truth. That's actually Prabhupada says for realization of oneself in spiritual psychology, just maybe a convenient principle. It doesn't mean that's it is the absolute, because that simplifies things for us. When you say, okay, we are same quality as the transcendental nature of the Lord, and we may strive for to achieve that quality, but the moment you strive for that, you started believing that you and God are same. Now you are actually in totally wrong direction. But there's always the difference of predominator and the predominator. So predominator is one. There will be many predominated personalities. So that means there can be one singular I, which is the God, the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there could be many I's, the individual I's. The Supreme Truth is Bhagavan. That's what the last part of this absolute truth realization. And he is the personality of Godhead. And to see that, we have to spiritualize our senses. This is again, without that, we cannot see him using our mundane senses. Even the impersonal existence of the Lord, as it is in the material creation, one should aspire for personal realization of the Lord. So he's saying even in the impersonal existence, if you, let's say, if you're, since it's a convenient principle, you're still going through that impersonal realization concept of the Lord. But even if you are doing in the material creation, you're doing that, you should still aspire for the personal realization of the Lord. And you need to experience that Lord is a personality and you can reciprocate, and you have to strive for that. Even if you happen to use this convenient principle. Because that's anyway not our goal, but he's saying some intermediate approach. People are neither here nor there. At least for them, okay, start believing, but your goal should be to understand Krishna as a person, not as something in homogeneous big light. And then he says there are so many personalities here, like there are many eyes. So the best is actually, I mean, there are devatas, demigods. So the best, he says, one should be attached to the root of everything rather than bewildered by the branches and leaves. That is the instruction given in this verse. That's what he says. So the root of the tree, that's important when you want to water it, not the branches and leaves. We had this so many times. So Prabhupada is stressing that point. Even if there are many eyes which are all have the same quality as the Lord, not in the quantity, is don't be just attached to that that particular personality and say, well, that's it. You still go towards the primary root, which is Lord Sri Krishna. So Prabhupada actually talks about a couple of things here, like he gives some knowledge about Vaikuntha planets, which will never be annihilated. Even in the last verse, he says, purports, the Vaikuntha planets always exist, and Lord is present there, and he compares the Lord as the chief executive at the same time as the person in his abode. So the Vaikuntha planets, there are people with 4 hands, have the same form of the Lord, and all the great amenities like people flying in airplanes, and all those things are present in the Vaikuntha planet. And that part of the world, the spiritual world, will never get annihilated. And so are the devotees who are there. So they're all eternal. So let me see if I have any important points which I missed. Yep. So that covers all the main points of this verse. Forgive me if I made any offense or told something which is inconsistent. Please correct me. Hare Krishna.
The next class.
Question was
The question is, you mentioned how to have complete faith in the Shastras. It's possible that one may get some questions. One question I was asking yesterday was, in Bhagavad Gita, when we read and we read it with full faith, and then the Virat Rupa is explained, and it is so nice. And then we come to Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it is explained that what you learned was imaginary in Bhagavad Gita about the Virat Rupa. Virat Rupa is imaginary.
Was it?
In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is explained, right? The Virat Rupa explained in Bhagavad Gita is imaginary and it is just for people who cannot see it otherwise. So that kind of raises a question. This process is going to repeat how many times? That now I am learning something in Srimad Bhagavatam, and then later on somebody is going to say, so what you learned is imaginary.
So I need to particularly understand where it's mentioned, to in what context it was told. Right now, sorry, Prabhu, I don't know that Bhagavad Gita's version is different than it's repeated in the Srimad
You can
Bhagavatam.
ask this question around also.
Yeah, so I would not say that because we are being from right in the beginning. Our scriptures are Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and they should be consistent. And so I should not see any inconsistencies. Maybe semantics may be a little different. What was shown, but
the form of Lord, which was representing the creation, that was considered imaginary, but not the one that is shown to observe. That's what I remember.
we have to do some research. Maybe we can take it off.
The
But-
form-
At this point of time, I say yeah. Let's say this is the doubt that you have, right? Having the doubts is good, but
So that was my question. If I get
What is the
doubts
next-
like that,
next book?
should I say, my God, I am odd?
we should
you should reach
trust.
out very well.
Yeah.
So that's
That's it, yeah.
Eliminate.
We will do some research. I have no answer to that. I was not. My answer to that, they should be consistent. Based because what we had in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, those are our main scriptures, and I not heard any something will be repeated in one version of other version kind of thing. And those are our ultimate books we need to. There are no other book other than I had like beyond Bhagavatam. Everything else may be subsection or a commentary on main aspects of Bhagavatam, but Bhagavatam we have to have faith in the Lord's activities, past and what is mentioned. Same with Bhagavad Gita because that's directly spoken by the Lord. Any other questions?
So, Prabhupada, in all of these verses, only emphasizing one point. Impressionists miss the point. Lord is a person.
Because he says this aham in all his verses refers to a personality. And he clearly says, addresses Brahma, and he tells him, I existed much before you came into the picture. And Brahma never even doubted that part because he knows something. He heard instruction, he's asking the Lord, now what shall I do? So there is no question on Brahma's part also, like he's doubting, maybe I'm the Lord, maybe I'm the creator, I am powerful. No, sir, he's asking the Lord to explain how to go about this creation process. So it clearly differentiates. Lord is a person, and a person who is also asking for help is not also like just a pure absolute Brahman kind of thing. He's also a personality. So both the personalities are having a conversation, and that same message is carried to us. So Prabhupada clearly uses this with all the impersonalist concept, but he also mentions that it may be convenient to have that initially like the principle that yes, we are the same quality, if that really is going to help you in any way. But as a pure devotee, why do you care? You always know you are serving to the Lord, whether you are in the same quality or more quality, quantities don't matter. Your natural relationship there is to serve the Lord. So you're not constantly thinking, the son is constantly not thinking when the exchange is happening between the father and the son. Father is powerful, and one day I'll be powerful. All those concepts won't come, the pure love. Same here. So we should be at the same level. Faith is for me, what Impersonal is that's all over for teaching purpose, but what is important for us is as a devotee, what we need to learn from these verses. If you take that, as I said, your endeavor, you have to have a complete faith, unflinching faith in the spiritual master and the Lord, and Lord's mercy is required. These three, that's it. If these three are there, he will rest of the Bhagavatam will be explained to us by Lord, and then we will realize it. And Lord is guaranteeing that in these verses. So for second illusory energy only, because even it's also part of the Lord's illusory energy. It's also in the Sanskrit is called Devi Maya here. So it's another trap, right? You go as part of this practice, devotional service, and then at some point, of course, this practice there, right? We are of the same quality. We came from the same, but we are not equal to the Lord. So if you go towards that quality aspect, forget the quantity aspect, and start thinking yourself, now I achieved my last stage of whatever I call it, right? You know, some people call nirvana or the Brahman realization. This is the ultimate, and this is where, and that's it. That's where I stay. It's also a kind of a trap for you. You say even at that level there are traps. So you have to be watchful. So how do you know that? Whether that means if you have somebody to tell you, sees you from outside and tells you, you have to move on. Then you can come out of it. But if you don't believe it because you reach the stage, you are above, and then anybody else, then nobody above you, nobody to guide you, then you are stuck there. You're stuck there. So watchful about it. At every point, however advanced we are, right, we still have to follow the five process of devotional service which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, always, so that we are careful about. And the spiritual master, the superior to guide is always a part of it. So for us, we have to say, as a devotee, as long as we follow a spiritual master and somebody to guide you, then you're okay. Hare Krishna.
Verses.
Any memorization verses?
Questions. Are we done with the questions?
Yeah.
Anyways.